smart speaker, and on TuneIn, iHeart, and on Odyssey.
From the Matrix Home Solutions studios, this is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560, The Answer.
Tickets are on sale now for Freedom Summit 2022. Get yours today at freedomsummitchicago.com.
Top of the morning, Dan and Amy. You know, I'm thinking more about the discussion we were having before Mike Scott's newscast as it pertains to the self-dealing of members of Congress and members of the federal Leviathan, the administrative state, when it comes to making financial transactions in industries over which they have regulatory authority, stock trades and the like. And the suggestion, well, just make them report every trade 24 hours before they make it, real-time transparency. Yeah, but I got to tell you, for all the talk of term limits, and it really is just talk, I've always said you want to see real turnover, including at the leadership level in the halls of power. Take the money out of it. Make them live on 175 grand with no opportunity for wealth creation. And then you say, well, okay, well, then it's just going to be a bunch of rich people who don't care about money. Rich people care about money.
Trust me, they do.
They care about money.
That's why they're rich.
They want to stay in the game. They want to, even if they're retired, they sold a company and they're retired, they still have a lot of financial interests and they're always looking for opportunities. So they do care. But take the money out of it. You cannot build wealth. 175 grand, that's more than fair since it's almost 3 times the median income in this country. But you can't build wealth. So you want to build wealth? No problem. Leave Congress and go back to your life and build it in the private sector. There's something attractive about that to me.
Senator Josh Hawley, he proposed bills to ban congressional stock trading that they promise will become law if the GOP wins, control in November.
Well, they're right, and there was legislation advanced in the House that's languishing because it's very much like talking about term limits. It's something that both parties like to talk about, and neither party likes to do anything about because they understand the implications, meaning it would be an end to their status as a minor celebrity. All right, anyway, just an aside, that conversation will continue rolling, but we need to roll into what those people have done to our economy and, frankly, your standard of living. This is the election cycle in which your standard of living has declined because of green stagflation, with an emphasis on deflation. For more discussion on that emphasis, pleased to be joined by Jim Nelles, supply chain consultant based in Chicago, regular contributor to the National Pulse as well. Jim, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Morning, Dan and Amy. How are you today?
Good. So this piece you wrote, in Newsweek, that is, perceived rate of food inflation grew almost 23%. The same report by Consumer Trends Tracker showed 55% of consumers report they're not getting enough of the food they want to eat. 1 in 5 not getting enough to eat altogether. And that was the real top line from the CPI number yesterday was that food inflation continues to rise.
Well, inflation came in at 8.2% for September. But if you look at what economists like Steve Cortez call the must-have basket, things that people have to buy, food is up 13%, gas is up 18%, fuel oil, thank goodness we don't live in the Northeast, fuel oil is up 58%,
oh my God,
and shelter costs are up 6.6%. And so people who have to, buy things every single day are being killed. And what's happening, though, is that working families and especially people of color can't afford these must-haves with their paychecks. So what we're seeing is savings being depleted at an all-time high rate. We're seeing credit card debt go up at record rates. There was a report out recently where I think it's 60% of Americans have had debt on their credit cards for over a year. In addition, Bloomberg, this is not Jim, this is Bloomberg is reporting that 20 million households in America, that's 1 in 6 households, are behind on their utility payments, and they're expecting a tsunami of shutoffs this year. And what is that leading to? It leads to that food insecurity that I wrote about for Newsweek, but it's also leading to things like foreclosures and car repossession skyrocketing. Foreclosures are up by more than 100% this year. And Illinois is in one of the top 3 states where those foreclosures are happening. basically everything is up except for the standard of living and the stock market.
Yeah, right. And since you're a supply chain expert, to just give us a perspective on that, since there has been so much talk coming out of the pandemic of having to reconstitute supply lines to get goods to market, and to get and to get some goods made, thinking of chips in particular, but even if they can be produced at the volumes that are demanded, the ability to get them to market. Where do we stand with the reconstruction of supply chains?
Well, Mayor Pete, who couldn't fill potholes in Indiana, is certainly not doing a good job fixing our supply chains. And, it's interesting. A lot of people will blame COVID for causing the supply chain issues. COVID didn't cause it. COVID just exposed it. And, what we've really seen is a complete underinvestment in our supply chain, as well as overregulation and over-unionization of our supply chains. Let me give you one quick example. The two major ports in the United States, the Port of Los Angeles and the Port of Long Beach, both in California, out of the 370 major ports in the world, they rank number 369 and number 370. Ports in Congo and in Rwanda and Angola are better than ours.
Rank in what sense? Rank
efficiencies. Mm-hmm. The ability to unload cargo and get the cargo out of the port. And, it's not only that, we're seeing a ton of issues with our supply chain right now. So there's a pending railroad strike. You remember a couple of weeks ago, the administration took a victory lap saying they avoided a railroad strike. Mm-hmm. What they didn't tell you is that the unions had to ratify that, and the unions came back and said, no, we don't like it, and now they're in another cooling off period. The Mississippi River is at all-time lows. There are over 2,500 barges sitting down in the Vicksburg area trying to get through where the river has reached lows and barges are running aground. This impacts the ability of farmers to get grain down to the Gulf of Mexico for export, but it also impacts the ability to get fuel, gravel, aluminum, cement, and fertilizer up to the northern area for distribution. The dock workers in the West Coast are working without a contract right now, and they're close to striking.
Well,
and trucking is – go ahead, Amy.
No. Good to finish about trucking, please.
No, trucking, the regulators are going crazy. So 70,000 trucks were taken off the road in California because of the gig law that they put into place, basically trying to force Uber to hire their drivers, but it also impacted independent truck drivers. Mm-hmm. And starting January 1st, another 75,000 trucks will no longer be allowed to operate in California because their engines are simply too old. So we're doing this to ourselves.
So if you were Pete Buttigieg and Secretary of Transportation, what would you be doing right now?
Well, first, after I would take 2 months for paternal leave, I would put some money into the ports. Of the $350 billion that went into what they called their Infrastructure Act, only $17 billion went to the ports. To give you an example of what that is, we put $65 billion into broadband. So we need to fix the ports. Then we need to change some of these regulations. So, for example, if you are a 19-year-old young woman serving in Iraq, you can drive an 18-wheeler all over Iraq or all over any place in the world because the government trains you to do that. The military trains you to do that. When you come home, you can only drive that 18-wheeler in your home state. You can't cross state lines. So we have a whole generation of truck drivers that go into other businesses because they don't want to wait until they're 21 before they can make money. So we need to get rid of that. We need to do things like stop pumping money into the economy and let the economy come back and take over. We need to do things like repealing the Jones Act, which, just be very short on it, prevents foreign ships from making multiple port calls in the United States, which drives up the costs anywhere from 20 to 35%, depending on which things you look at. But net, just get the government out of the darn way and let people do their jobs.
So where do you see things going? Bank of America announced they anticipate job losses about 175,000 a month starting next month. Intel's laying off people. Of course, the Fed is poised to for a couple of more rate hikes between years end. So I guess maybe happy days are here again. The combination of job losses and interest rate hikes to kill this inflation monster, and then we can get back to some pre-pandemic normalcy. Is that how it's going to go?
as long as the government stops pumping money into the economy, that's how it'll go. So PricewaterhouseCoopers came out with a study showing that 50% of companies expect to lay off people between the next 6 to 12 months. We're seeing the number of new jobs coming down. The number of open jobs came down by over 1 million in September. So that is happening. Interest rates continue to go up, and unfortunately, they have to go up. It's going to hurt the housing market. It's going to hurt. Think about those poor people that are having to charge their groceries on their credit card. They can't pay off their debt, and the interest rates go up every month. But that's what needs to happen. But if the federal government doesn't stop pumping money into the economy, and they want to do more by forgiving student loan debt and doing more and more stimulus, it's just going to continue to perpetuate the problem.
All right. Now, I don't want to get personal, Jim, but I must ask this question. I note in your CV that you have a BA from Northwestern in economics and French, and that double major, including French, leads me to call into question everything we've heard from you. So please explain why you co-majored in French.
And have you done anything with your degree?
Yeah.
I actually have done a lot of business in France, but the reason I continued down the path with French at Northwestern is because in advanced classes, there would be me and a bunch of sorority girls. So
hey, fine. All right, that's a good answer.
Je m'appelle Mitchell.
That's a good answer. I just wanted,
très bien.
that was an integrity test, yes. and he passed with flying colors. Very good. Jim Nelles, supply chain consultant based in Chicago, regular contributor to the National Pulse as well. Jim, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Have a great day.
Thank you. And he joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
It's news, opinion, insight. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
Did you miss the open enrollment this year? I can help you purchase a PPO health insurance plan all year long that eliminates the mandatory maternity coverage. This is Tom Marabali, and if you're 50 years old and are covered by the Affordable Care Act, you're paying for maternity coverage whether you want the coverage or not. The least expensive ACA PPO health insurance plan is $540 per month with a total out-of-pocket cost of $8,550 before your bills are paid at 100%. I can eliminate the mandatory maternity coverage and lower your monthly premium down to $273 per month with a total out-of-pocket cost of $2,500 before your bills are paid at 100%. That's a savings of $6,050 in total out-of-pocket costs per person with my lower deductible, and you save $267 per month with my lower premiums. For a free quote and to see if you qualify, call me, Tom Marabali, at 630-863-3477. That's 630-863-3477.
Turnkey.pro, locally owned and operated. They are here to help you.